Good morning, good evening, depending on wherever you are. Welcome to yet another Bloom Global webinar. Today's topic is driving efficiency and visibility in your supply chain, lessons from Dana Inc. and Bloom Global. So here's the agenda slide. Quick introduction, couple of minutes, then we'll move to an interesting topic to discuss state of supply chains. Then we'll briefly talk about the Bloom Global Supply Chain Orchestration Platform. Then we move on to lessons from Dana Incorporated. We have guests from Dana that I'll introduce in a bit. And then we'll conclude with a wrap-up points and Q&A. Of course, we will try to get back to you with the responses at the earliest. So today's speakers, this is Prashant. I'm a senior product marketing manager with Bloom. Joining me is Francois, AVP Business Development from our EMEA office. And we have our guest today, Chris Lawson, Senior Manager, Purchasing Analytics, Dana Incorporated. So for those who were not familiar with Dana, Dana is a Fortune 500 company. Dana has been in the business for over 100 years now. Dana is well known for innovative solutions for mobility, energy, and industrial sectors. I'm sure Chris will give more details when we get into the discussion mode. And moving on to a quick introduction of Bloom. For those who are not familiar with Bloom Global, we are the only cloud-first supply chain orchestration platform uniting order orchestration, multimodal transportation management, end-to-end visibility, supplier relationship management, and cognitive command center. Bloom is on Gartner's RTTVP quadrant. RTTVP stands for Real-Time Transportation Visibility Platform. As you can see, we've got 5 stars in multiple parameters. And Bloom offers solutions in the form of GCP, and Google happens to be our cloud platform. This is a quick snapshot of our network. As you can see, we are present in 170 countries. Our application supports 24 languages, and we have offices in 8 locations worldwide, which helps us service our customers 24/7. And if you look at the numbers on your screen, we have thousands of carriers across modes connected to our platform. The modes include rail, ocean, less than truckload, full truckload, parcel, drayage, which we have strong at. And it's not just carrier partners, but we also have thousands of suppliers connected to us. So with this, we'll get into another interesting topic to discuss. Yeah, so a little prelude to this, Francois. I know from past couple of years we've been seeing a lot of pandemic-induced disruptions, and the world thinks that the pandemic is over. But I was reading a report a couple of days ago where the report mentions that the top supply chain executives still list as pandemic-driven disruption as one of the top 3 concerns. In addition to that, we also have geopolitical situations to deal with in form of Ukraine war and things like that, and rising inflation, which is kind of increasing the input costs, and while the customer demand is kind of getting low, and we have a potential recession. People are saying that it's already started. So with this in the background, Francois, from your experience, could you kind of reflect back on what happened in the past 1-2 years, and also the top priorities looking into the future, maybe 6 to 12 months in the future? So, Francois, what do you have to say about the current state of supply chain?
Okay, sure. Thank you. Thank you very much, Prashant. So we're here today to speak about driving efficiency and visibility on the supply chain, as Prashant explained. And why do we need to do this? It's because, unfortunately, supply chain are suffering from a lot of disruption. We had a survey recently that highlighted that about 89%, so close to 90% of the supply chain leaders are concerned about their supply chain, and half of those say that implementing new supply chain design is a top priority for them in 2023. The main top 3 issues remain shortage on components and raw material, The second one, labor shortage. And the last one is basically unreliable lead time, whether it's for manufacturing or for delivery. When we speak with supply chain leaders, and that's exactly what Chris Dawson, I think, is going to highlight in a few minutes, and he will do it much better than I do, I'm sure. It's all about data today. Digitalization is a big word. We need clean data. We need accurate data. We need to keep those data updated, and updated not only inside your silo, inside your company, but really down your supply chain. And that's what makes it very hard. How do you track adoption from your suppliers so that they can give you and share with you that information, that data that you need? And why do you need that data? You need that data to be able to have visibility, to be able to be in control of your supply chain and manage by exception. That's how you get flexible enough. That's how you succeed in getting your agility on your supply chain and bring resilience on it. So it's not just updating your supply chain, but it's really more shifting or kind of pivoting your supply chain today. Those four areas that you see here on this screen basically reflect the top four priorities that supply chain leaders have, and certainly the priorities that Chris Dawson is going to share in a few minutes. The top one on the top left corner, the risk. You have a lot of financial risk. You've got the global inflation. Everybody speaks about it. That impacts, of course, the energy. That impacts, of course, the cost. That impacts drastically the supply chain. So how do you deal with this? How do you deal with the fact that because it's more expensive, suppliers may have issues being able to invest in what you want them to invest? And linked to the one that is on the bottom left corner, electrification, which basically means changing kind of your supply chain, changing what your suppliers are going to deliver you. How do you want those suppliers to invest in new technology if there is an issue with the cost? They have to be able to subsidize it. Constrained labor market, clearly that's a big issue that everybody sees. As I said, that's the priority concern number 2 of most of the supply chain leaders. There is a shortage on labor, and that leads to a lot of disruptions on the supply chain. And localization, big word, mix of globalization and of localization. How can you be more global, thus trying to localize more and more your supply chain? How can you do nearshoring as well? Everybody speaks about it. It's not that easy when we've built over the past 10, 12, 15 years global supply chain, trying to produce some goods in low-cost countries, and now everybody comes to the supply chain leaders and say, hey, can you bring all of that back within the next 2 or 3 months? That doesn't work that easy, unfortunately. Specifically when we have to deal with new change on the technology. Electrification in the automotive industry is a big topic. Dana is manufacturing transmissions of good, of course, drastic impact of the Dana product. Chris is going to speak about it in a few minutes. But basically, what does it mean down the supply chain? You may have to change suppliers. You may have to find new technology. You may have to coach your suppliers, find the ones that are innovative enough to come to you with new technology. That's the change that comes with a new product. You may have to help your suppliers investing. Back to the risk that we were saying. How do you manage that risk? When you deliver those changes, how do you make sure you update your process accordingly? The third one, geopolitical. Everybody has heard about it, obviously, whether it's the war, Ukraine, Russia, whether it's the tension with China, whether it's, again, labor uncertainty. Basically, all of those drives to continuous issues and disruptions on the supply chain, to which you need to add the one that's always happen, like supply shortages. We've seen that, and it's of course impacted as well by the war, as we've seen, whether it's port congestion. The geopolitical instability nowadays is a big topic for the supply chain. So how do you make sure that you have suppliers that are not in those geopolitical risky area? How do you drive that? And the last one, of course, on top right corner, but not least, is everything that has to do with environment. There are a lot of changes in the legislation. You have to take care of carbon. How do you drive scope 3 carbon emission? How do you make sure that you collect from your suppliers, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, the information that you need to be able to aggregate, consolidate, and bring to your customers what is your footprint in terms of carbon emission. How do you make sure that you track your suppliers' plan, that you track the progress that they have, that they may deliver to. So there is a big increase in data collaboration with suppliers, process collaboration. There is a big increase in being able to work as a team, increase the relationship. That's a big topic for the supply chain as well. So Bloom is basically an orchestration supply chain platform. What does that mean? That means that from the left side, where you've got the providers, to the right side, where you need to deliver to your customer, you need to execute processes, whether it's on the supplier relationship management, on the order management, or after that, as soon as you ship the goods, on the transportation management. You need to be able to execute on those processes, but also keep a permanent real-time visibility. And that's only when you're able to execute and have visibility that you can have a proper control tower that is not only going to highlight where the issues are, but is going to tell you when there is an exception that you need to focus on, but also give you the multiple alternatives that you may want to select to be able to mitigate that risk. And that's not only within your organization as well, but with any stakeholder that have to act on the supply chain, whether it's the manufacturer, whether it's a truck driver, whether it's the ocean carrier, whether it's the freight forwarder. It doesn't matter. Anyone that has to basically take an action on the supply chain may become someone that you have to quickly interact with in order to mitigate your disruptions.
Now, let's move over to Chris. Could you talk more about Dana Incorporated and what you guys do exactly, and what were the pain points and challenges before you signed up for Bloom Solution, and the benefits that you've been seeing?
Sure, thank you. And just a couple slides to begin here, just to give you an idea on Dana and the scope in which we started out before we implemented Bloom. So, as mentioned earlier, Dana's over 100-year-old company. We are a global company. We operate in all 6 continents. We have over 88 manufacturing facilities across 31 countries. So, very large company in almost every mobility market around the world. We operate in 4 business units, from our off-highway business all the way on to our on-highway business. So when we first began with Bloom, we had a very similar scope and needed a platform in which we could manage our supply base across not only the global geographic regions, but very different business types as well. And Bloom was a solution that would ended up helping us do that. Sure. And just this slide really just speaks to some of the change that we're seeing that Francois mentioned already. So being a 100-year-old company, engineering company based in some pretty traditional products in the mobility market, axles, transmissions, drive shaft, drivetrain. Dana over the last several years has transitioned to where we now have a complete electrified systems for all mobility markets that we serve. So I believe we're the only company globally that also offers the traditional drive systems, but also complete electrified as well. And why that's important is for the reasons Francois mentioned earlier, is that as we've had to transition from traditional supply base into a new supply base, being on a global platform with that foundation established has enabled us to do this fairly fluid, which is very important as there's disruption in the market. Having that foundation to build on has helped us. So a little bit of the history, as Prashant said, we've been with Bloom for a decade now. Back when it was a LiveSource platform in 2013, we launched with supplier management, which was kind of the foundation of everything that Dana does. So when we first started on our journey, the some of the main issues that we had seen in trying to manage our supply base across many markets and across the globe was we're a very large company made up of acquisitions over the years, so we had multiple ERP systems, so not a source of truth for our data. We had multiple quality systems and no master data, no supplier management across the whole platform. And not having any of that consistency in data and platforms, we had things like risk management, or now when you talk about sustainability or ESG, we didn't have a baseline or a foundation to build on. So what happens was back then our buyers had their day-to-day things that buyers, have to do between sourcing and RFQs, but they're also trying to manage through all these disconnected systems, the supply base at the same time. So buyers got pulled in a lot of different directions and there was no consistency. So back in 2013, as we said, we launched with supplier management and some of the basic modules from RFQ and sourcing. And really that became the foundation. We have all of our production suppliers to Dana globally managed in the system. We collect now over 600 different attributes on every supplier, and it's how we've been able to transition over time into, as I said, the electrification market. In 2015, we made a choice to take the data that we collect in that foundation from LiveSource. We integrated that into our business intelligence. So now we had a way to take what was collected from our supply base and use that in our reporting and our KPIs and mix it with data that we had internally as well. 2017, 2018, we added a number of different modules. Our quality group within Dana launched our non-conformity and our contract library. This helped us have a global process again from a quality side. We since launched tooling and an idea module. And just last year, we worked with Bloom to develop the order management. So if you remember back to the slide that Francois spoke about the three different pillars that they have, we've kind of progressed ourselves from the left, starting out with supplier management and sourcing, and now we're into the middle with the order management and how do we manage our orders. And I see us continuing on that path as enabling us to kind of cradle to grave manage our supply chain. So this slide just talks a little bit of our cross-functional and global approach to using the Bloom platform. So as I mentioned, we started out with just purchasing. So at Dana, purchasing is separate from our logistics and materials planning. So we started with sourcing, tooling, contracts, supplier management, which now led us to be able to ingest that data, use it for sustainability and risk management. I talked about our quality group globally adopting the platform. So we have launched non-conformity. We are rolling out PPAP and ePPAP module now, and we are launching APQP this year. So again, adopted by our quality group, built on the foundation of having all of our production suppliers in one system that we can manage. So that overlap between the two different functions has worked really well. We are now with order management starting to also work with materials planning and moving towards an item-centric, not just a supplier-centric system with Bloom, whereas we're loading all of our part numbers and bill of materials into the system. So pulling in engineering and being able to have that visibility globally of what parts belong to which suppliers, and really having that overlap between all the different functions now, and really good visibility of the performance of our suppliers globally. So a little bit about the future. So program management is where we're moving into now that we have that integration with our materials planning and our engineering groups. As I mentioned, having that bill of material and part visibility into our system from our engineering system of PLM. We'll be able to integrate and improve the process of quoting for our buyers, how we ingest the prints and the specs, how we get those to our suppliers, how we source the business, and then ultimately when we're ready to award business and launch launch a program, we'll be able to manage that through the APQP process, which includes the PPAPing of the parts to our plants. So again, it's starting that program management helps us tie all of our processes together from initiation of needing a quote to launching the business in one of our facilities. This also helps us integrate risk, sustainability, and cost walks into that quoting process as well. And then next we'll move into our logistics optimization. So understanding our supply base and where they're located, understanding and integrating the order management side into that not only helps us reduce costs and things like premium freight and optimize our packaging, but I think more importantly, it has a large impact on our ESG program and being able to understand our carbon footprint. And once we can understand that, then we can start to optimize and improve that carbon footprint, make better sourcing decisions, be able to localize where we need product and understand what that impact is on the environment. Not only from a logistics standpoint, but things like packaging and how we manage that packaging as well. So lastly, a little bit on how we integrate the data. So we've internally, we call our system Dana One Source. It's the Bloom system. We bring that data back into a data warehouse where we integrate that with our business intelligence platforms. But again, going back a decade ago, this is the foundation that we've built in Bloom allows us to do things like have a supplier scorecard. So every supplier to Dana globally on the production side has a scorecard. It's made up of data points that we collect from the supplier from Bloom, and the scoring is and the algorithms are managed within our own business intelligence to give us a scorecard. That leads us to be able to do things like a sourcing scorecard. So again, the RFQ data and the just the general supplier data, the certificates, the sustainability data, the risk data that we bring back from Bloom allows us to incorporate not only what is the cost of the part, but what is the risk of all the suppliers that we're looking to source business with? What is the sustainability of the suppliers? What programs do they have in place? Do they have their audits and certificates in place? So it's allowed us to build out a very robust sourcing process supported by the data collected from Bloom. That as well as you'll see on the right-hand side, sustainability and risk. Same foundation from Bloom is allowing us to manage and measure the sustainability of our suppliers and the risk of our suppliers. And then ultimately, what that's allowed us to do is at a very lowest level, all of those data points are able to be brought into things like a buyer dashboard or one of our business unit dashboards. So essentially, if you're a buyer at Dana, you have a one-stop shop. You can pull up your dashboard, you can filter it to yourself, and you can see the risk of your suppliers that are assigned to you, the sustainability, do they have all their certificates, have they filled out all their data, what is their quality. So a very robust management of key performance indicators, whether you're at a buyer level or whether you're all the way up at a business unit level or an overall Dana level. We're able to have a snapshot of how our suppliers are performing and where our risks are.
That's all interesting points. Francois, back to you. I think we discussed this a couple of times. I believe Bloom has a very efficient implementation process, which can get our customers up and go live quickly. Do you want to touch upon some points and if at all, if anything you recall from Dana implementation days?
I think yes, Prashant, that your question is spot on, because each time that we speak with customers, each time that we speak with prospect, the question that always comes back is, how do you make sure that suppliers are going to play the game? How do you make sure that suppliers are really going to feel invested into that project? So agreed, this is the crucial point. Adoption of the suppliers is key. If there is no adoption from suppliers, you don't collect the data that you need, you don't get the information on time. And if you don't get that on time, then the purpose of an interactive platform is not doesn't work anymore. So maybe let me ask Chris, because Chris managed to deploy the solution, as he said, with multiple ERPs. So suppliers had to be in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 different systems before, and he managed to deploy Bloom pretty easily, I would say, and very successfully. So Chris, would you say, I don't know, do you have any tips to share? Do you have any secret sauce?
I would say probably our two things come to mind when I think about adoption of the system. So one of the very first things that we did is that we have a what we call a purchasing owner assigned to every supplier. So there's a Dana buyer, if you will, that is assigned to each supplier and in the Bloom system. So that for us built in some accountability or responsibility for a buyer to manage their suppliers. The second thing that we did is we really integrated the data through analytics, and the Bloom platform has some analytics built into it. But bringing that data back and building it into our processes. So in order to get sourced on new business for Dana, you have to have your supplier scorecard complete. The only way to have your scorecard complete is to fill up the data within Bloom. So again, it obviously suppliers are looking to win new business and to quote new business with Dana. So having their data complete, their certificates uploaded, all that information completed helps them and allows them to continue to be in our processes. And I think adding the cross functionality of that as well, and adding different modules from Bloom. So now not only is purchasing asking for data from the suppliers, but it's also the global quality platform where they're answering corrective actions from our facilities across the globe. It's where their data on their quality performance comes from. So it's important for them to be involved and keep that data accurate. Now, as we build in, the order management and logistics, it's just more pieces of the puzzle that fit into their scorecards, their sourcing, now their sustainability and their risk dashboards as well. So again, I think the more you can incorporate that data, incorporate the different modules together, I think it helps the suppliers and drives the adoption.
Okay, and how did you manage the fact that suppliers didn't push back? Can you explain a little bit how the interaction with Bloom works, with maybe with the training, with the customer service, making sure that everybody is able to use the platform as Dana wishes?
Sure. So yeah, I think that's a big piece of it. If you looked at the footprint of Bloom compared to the footprint of Dana, they operate in the same regions. Bloom took care of helping with the implementation. They do all the training. They have various means of for the suppliers to get help. So they can speak to a person. There's a help desk in each of the regions. So again, it's not no matter where they're located in the world, they can speak to someone. There's a lot of online videos. There's the chat feature within the system. So depending on how suppliers like to interact and get help, all those options are available. And again, yeah, the training provided and supported by Bloom, I guess took that responsibility off of Dana people to have to go out and try and train all these suppliers on a new system and kind of manage that ourselves. That was a big help and a help to adoption.
Nice. All valuable insights, Chris and Francois. Attendees, if you have any questions, feel free to put in your question in the Q&A box that you get to see on your screen. To wrap up, thank you for attending to today's webinar. We hope that you found this information helpful and educative at the same time. We at Bloom Global are committed to helping our customers optimize their supply chain by leveraging latest technology and best practices, as you heard from Francois and Chris. Whether you're looking to improve your order collaboration or streamline your transportation management, or gain end-to-end visibility. We have the expertise and the solution to help you. If you're interested to learn more about Bloom Global, please reach out to us. You can ping in your question in the box on your screen, or else visit our website and you can put in your query there. Gentlemen and ladies, thank you for joining us for this webinar, and have a great day.